Hello, teacher. Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
teacher.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so today we're looking at physical constraints. So we're looking at assessing needs, physical constraints. So the objective for today's lesson is that participants will be able to propose solutions to the physical constraints of their course. So some community guidelines. Obviously happy if you are here. Please try and arrive on time. But if you are late or have technical issues, that's okay. And just join in the conversation and the class as you are able to. Mute yourself. Oh. Good evening. Mute yourself when you are not talking, but please remember to unmute yourself when you do want to talk and to speak loudly so that everyone can hear you. Please complete the pre-session interactive, like self-paced slides. So those are, I put them in the Google Classroom and I email them out. I think this time, and they're on Facebook. So if you ever need to check, you can check on Facebook. And the post-session feedback forms, I'll send a link at the end of the class, and I will also email those out. This will help us revise and develop the course. If you have questions or technical issues during the session, please send a message in the chat box, or you can send an email to info@hettgroup.com. Okay, quick introduction about myself. My name is Lisa Vance. I have previously taught English. I have taught environmental education. I have done some teacher training previously. And I have lived in Thailand, Myanmar, and Malaysia previously. And my co-host is Kathleen. Kathleen designs the slides. Kathleen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Kathleen Griley. I'm an English teacher and a Spanish teacher, currently living in the US.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so how well can you work around physical constraints? So not at all, somewhat, or a little bit, somewhat, quite well, or extremely well. So show of thumbs on the count of 3, or you can tell me in the chat box if you can't turn on your video. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Some people don't have their video on, but I can see a few people. Okay, cool. A little bit. A little bit, a little bit. Good. Oh, there's one more person. A little bit. Okay. What is this? Oh, there's a few more answers. I'll check first. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Okay, good. What is this from the picture? I know they're not used as often in Myanmar, but hopefully you can still recognize it. What is it? I don't know if I ever used one in Myanmar. So if you are a seat belt, yes, excellent. So this is a seat belt, a belt, yeah, a seat belt in a car. But yeah, I very rarely use the seatbelt in Myanmar from my memory. Okay, what is it used for? What is a seatbelt used for? So for safety, yes. Yeah. So to keep you from, if you get in an accident, it keeps you safe. It protects you. Yeah, to stay safe. Okay. To protect against an accident. Good. So a seatbelt is an example of a constraint. It makes it so you can't move. You're stuck in your seat. Especially if you get in an accident, you're kind of stuck there. It's uncomfortable, yeah. So what is a constraint though? In general. So it is a limit or a restriction, something that limits you. Yeah, a limitation. Good. It is tight. Yeah, it is. But yeah, a constraint is a limitation or restriction. It can be good or bad. A seatbelt is a good constraint because it holds you in case you're in an accident or you stop fast, so that you don't go flying through the window. Yeah. But say limited financial resources, you have no money, that's a bad constraint, because that if you have no money, you can't buy anything. And obviously that's bad. So you can have good constraints or bad constraints. So we're going to look at some constraints that you might face in the classroom and kind of constraints you might face in the classroom in Myanmar currently. Can anyone think of any constraints they might face in the classroom? Any limitations? Large class sizes, time constraint, yes. Time, it seems to be a big one, time. Anything else? Okay. So yeah, we have the ones that we're going to look at today. Funding, yes, of course, yeah. Could be the syllabus is also, that's one we didn't mention, but the syllabus can also be a bit of a constraint. So it relates to class time, but it could also be just that you have what material you have to get through, and the textbook you use might be decided by your university or by the Ministry of Education. So you might not have control over that. Big classes, number of students. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to look at number of students, seating arrangements, class time, funding, and COVID regulations, because obviously right now, COVID regulations or in the future might impact the classroom as well. So why is it important to focus on constraints? Like why do you think we're talking about it in this class today? Why is it useful to talk about it? Class time, yeah. So if we're able to talk about it to get effective teaching, yes. So it means that we might be realistic. If we think about the problems, we can then, yeah, to be effective teaching and learning, to overcome difficulties, yeah. So if we talk about it, then it's easier to overcome the difficulties. We can brainstorm solutions to the problems, or at least be thinking about, yeah, to how to overcome the constraints. So yeah, thinking about it. And you can, if you're thinking about it, then you can plan your lesson around it. You can also think of what needs to be changed and maybe propose solutions. So as mentioned, we're going to look again, number of students, seating arrangements, class time, funding, COVID-19 regulations. Okay, what are some constraints that come from having a large number of students? So if you have a large number of students, how does that limit you? So how is it a constraint? How is it a limitation? Why is it a problem to have a large number of students? Oh, there we go. It's all at once. I have to wait. Class control, yeah. So class control can be difficult with a large number of students. Time management, yeah, everything takes longer. Takes time by calling, like roll calling, yeah. Speak loudly. So class management problems, passive learning, yeah. So you might, I mean, doing a lot of active learning can be difficult, can't control totally. Yeah, like class control, class management is difficult. Those are all, yeah, definitely. So yeah, like we kind of have limits, types of activities you can do. So someone mentioned passive learning. I mean, it makes active learning harder. Students learn better in smaller groups because they get kind of more individual kind of time, and it's easier to adapt to their needs. As someone mentioned, also class management. It also comes down to, it's probably sometimes harder to motivate them. So there's, what else? Takes time to roll call. Yeah, like it's just time consuming with more students. Okay. So what are some, about those problems, what are some possible solutions that we could have to some of the problems of large classrooms? What can you do to try to minimize the problems with having a large number of students? Okay, create an engaging lesson. Yeah, definitely. Make groups. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. If you put people kind of in groups, then they can work together. To pair seated on the left and right. Yeah, so group work and pair grouping the students. To make groups for activities, divide groups. Makes pairs or groups. Yeah. Increase HR resources. Yeah, I mean, that's good. I don't know how much you can do that individually, but that might come a little bit down to funding as well. So yeah, we have, so station rotation. So maybe kind of like you mentioned, putting them in groups. Yes, tutoring struggling students. Yeah. So station rotation. So maybe you could almost put them in, you can put them in groups and then have different things that they're working on or studying and have them like rotate around so that it's not just everyone listening. You have them working in the groups, kind of moving around to different activities, and maybe they can work on those activities by themselves and the teacher is only mostly involved with either supervision or kind of supervising to make sure it's working, or kind of teaching or presenting as part of one of those activities, but they kind of work on the other activities by themselves. Peer review, also you can have them give feedback to each other, and review each other's work. And then that means that the teacher doesn't have to take the same amount of time to be giving feedback and maybe marking assignments and that type of thing. Also recording. So if you get them, instead of doing a group assignment where they present to the whole class, maybe give them some time to record the information. Maybe they can go out in the hallway, they can record the information, then they can come back, so that you're not wasting a lot of time presenting or having the groups show everyone else, but you just record it and give them some time to record it and watch. And maybe they could share it with one other group. There's different ways of doing that. As far as time management, say when it comes to a roll call, maybe you can have them sign in when they enter instead of calling out all of their names. As far as management, if you put them in partners or groups, they might be easier to manage. What else was there? Yeah, and then we kind of talked about like active learning. Yeah, like you could put them in groups to work together. Yeah, I think that was most of them. What are the constraints? What are the constraints surrounding seating arrangements? So I know in Myanmar, in a lot of classes, the seats are in rows, and you can't really move the rows. They're too heavy, or maybe they're stuck to the ground. So how is that a constraint? Yeah, so the fixed row seat setting. Yeah. What else? Can you think of anything else? What's the issues with it? Why is it a problem? So if your seats are stuck, why can that make teaching difficult? Noisy? Yeah, like the seating like that is quite noisy. It kind of echoes. Okay, so let's look here. So cannot change seats for different types of activities. So when I'm teaching, I prefer chairs that I can move around, because then I can put people in different places. If you can't move it around, it makes some activities more difficult to do. Yeah, so you can't do the activities comfortably. So if you have like the rows of seats, it's a bit harder to do group activities. So yeah, different seating arrangements work best for different types of activities. What are some, one more comment. No mingling. Yeah, it makes mingling type activities more difficult, definitely. What are the solutions to having fixed seating arrangements? So what are some possible solutions to this, if this is a problem? Do standing activities. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. Standing activities. Yeah. So easiest solution is do standing activities for your group projects. So if you do group things, either you have people just work with the people beside them. Maybe they turn to the person in front of them, the person next to them, or the person behind them. So you can do that, make it very simple. Like just turn to the person on your right, turn to the person on your left, work with them. or you can get people standing up, and you can have them moving around as part of the activity. Yeah, so maybe you can have like go over here if you're part of this group, go over here, or just stay standing during this assignment. Use a chart and like a board to record your answers. Obviously, a possible solution is movable chairs and desks in the future. I know that you can't just replace your chairs and your desks, but maybe your university, if they have a little bit of a budget in some of their classrooms, they can move to try and bring in cheap movable chairs and desks. You can buy some quite inexpensive, quite cheap. But I know like not everyone can actually buy them, but it is a solution in some classrooms to try and help that, and to try and find a solution where it's easier to do group work and pair work and that type of thing, is if you can find the budget for movable chairs and desks. Okay, what are the constraints that come from having limited class time? So if you have limited class time, what is the problem? Not finishing the lesson on time? Not give a good presentation? Limited activities? Yeah. Like it's hard to do lots of activities in a short amount of time. Find it difficult to do work with students? Yes. Dull, yeah. Not make the best. Yeah, if you have a short amount of time, it's hard to like fit everything in and do everything you want. Rushing, yes, definitely. Yeah, so I kind of have not enough time to cover all the content, not enough time to focus on individual students. But I do think like, yeah, like not enough time for activities to run properly and to do lots of activities. I mean, especially if you have a lot of content to cover, it can be difficult to try and do activities and cover all the material that you're supposed to cover. What are the solutions for having limited class time? What are some solutions that you could implement? Give students homework, take home assignments, give assignments, yeah. Yeah. Asking for homework, good. Peer learning, yeah. Groups or teams to complete in-class assignments, excellent. Those are all good suggestions. Yeah, so I have, yeah, giving homework. So yeah, I think like maybe doing more group work and having the groups help each other would definitely be a way to use time wisely and to use it well. So I have assigned homework. So instead of covering a certain information in class, you can just give it as reading at home. So if you have the textbook, maybe make sure they read the textbook before they come to class, and then just discuss the main points. Yeah, maybe give some extra time after class. Yeah, you can stay for a little bit. Maybe don't try and schedule it, but in case people have questions, Make sure you have office time, office hours, or if you don't, stay a few minutes afterwards. But yeah, if you assign reading so that they can learn the information, and maybe you spend the class time discussing it, which is kind of similar to the flipped classroom idea, which is where the students kind of learn the material outside of class, and then in class it's more practiced on doing activities regarding what they read and the information they read, and then the teacher can help them with the activities. Or the more traditional, you learn the material in class and then you do the activities for homework. But the flipped classroom is a good way for this to have that active learning in the classroom, and also for the teacher to be able to see what is happening. Use class time well. So it's good to have a routine, because if you have a routine in the class, then the students kind of know what's going to happen next. They know what's going to follow. And so they'll be a lot faster at doing that next step. Like change the activities a bit. But if you have a little bit of a routine, it kind of makes things flow smoother and easier. Also, I think I mentioned it before as far as, say, activities. If you don't have enough time to do longer activities, just even if you have to present your PowerPoints, even like a 2 or 3 minute activity to break it up, to check understanding. You could do a quick poll, like show of hands even, or discussion questions, partner activity, 2 or 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long activity. If you have a lot of material, just add a little short activity into the lesson. What are the constraints that come from having limited funding? So I've heard people complain about this in Myanmar. What are some of the constraints of limited funding? Lack of classroom facilities? Yeah, that's kind of a big one. Anything else? Free trials? Don't have enough equipment? Yes. Facilities difficult? Yes, definitely. So so if you don't have enough equipment, enough facilities, it makes things really difficult. Lack of technology, yeah. Like I know sometimes there's like even the electricity, not having electricity in the classroom means that you can't show PowerPoints, your PowerPoints don't work. You can't show videos, you can't, like without, and electricity cuts out a lot in Myanmar. So, I mean, that's not quite directly funding, but it's maybe that's when maybe we should have included that separately in a way. But, but it's kind of like there's not enough money for generators and backup generators. There's only enough for a few generators. So at some of the schools, or if you don't have equipment to do experiments and you're at a science place or a science like STEM, you're studying STEM, you don't have money for equipment for experiments. Maybe you don't have the best textbooks because your school and the students can't afford the best textbooks, or you just don't have access to them. So yeah, if schools are underfunded, they don't perform as well. And I know that the funding in Myanmar for higher ed is very, very, very low percentage wise. Also, maybe your teachers are paid less, so it's not, this isn't your kind of, you can't do anything about this. But if the teachers are paid less, maybe they're less motivated. Also inequitable. So maybe some schools like the University of Yangon or University of Mandalay might have more funding than a university in a smaller town. So which isn't really fair. Yeah, and cost of research, like, yeah, doing research costs money. The equipment costs money. No good language lab. Yeah, so if you're teaching English, you don't have a good language lab, you don't have good material, you don't have maybe good audio files or things like that, or audio equipment. Okay, what are some solutions to having limited funding? So what are some possible solutions? Anyone? Invite donations. Yes, yeah. So we have that here. I'm not sure how much you can do it at your universities, but yeah, find donors, fundraise, go out maybe into your community if there's any organizations with money. You can also work with maybe other universities from abroad, and they could provide services. So maybe they won't act as financial donors, but maybe they will provide a material and equipment and support and access to, say, like journal articles and journal subscriptions or something like that. So yeah, like fundraise. Free trials. So someone mentioned this earlier. You have a lot of free trials available now, especially online. So you can use those, and then especially use those before you decide to spend money. Yeah, seek funding by doing special activities. Yeah, definitely. Find local donors. Yeah, so you might have local donors that might be interested in helping out. Yeah. And there's also like tech tools, like there's a lot of tools out there, like simple or free or cheap tools that can help you, where like maybe you don't need all the equipment in your classroom, or yeah, like there's just a lot out there that are low cost or very free. So if you search around, you can find things to help you. And yeah, like there's different possibilities. Okay. What are the constraints that come from COVID-19 regulations? So what are some of the constraints? I think, are you teaching class right now with COVID-19 in Myanmar? Yeah, so limited place, delays everything, social contact, not to teach face-to-face learning, healthcare, social distancing. Yeah. So there's a lot of, so yeah, there's social distancing. You're not supposed to be close to people. Your students aren't supposed to be close to people. There's masks, so you're kind of supposed to wear masks. You have students online instead of face-to-face. Yeah, there's economic loss. Yeah, so the teachers, the students, everyone, the universities, they might all be facing economic loss, can't open face-to-face classroom, weakness in technology, feel depressed because of poor connection. Yeah, I mean, technology is still, like, it's catching up in Myanmar, but it's still a bit behind a lot of other countries. And so it's not always the best connection, which can be stressful. You have Zoom fatigue, where you get tired of being on the computer on Zoom. You have maybe less class time because people can't sit in front of a computer for classes in the same way they can sit in a classroom for face-to-face. You know, students are probably falling behind a bit. Either if they don't have classes, they're falling behind. But even if they're having classes, they might be depressed. Yeah, you might be depressed, everyone. It's just kind of, it's a difficult situation. So what are the solutions to teaching under COVID regulations? What are some things that you can try and do to minimize the limitations or minimize the constraints, make things better? Yeah, so you obviously have to use online teaching to learn. Yeah, so learn digital literacy. So if you're a teacher, you might want to teach yourself or teach your students digital literacy. Plan for online lessons, to have free or cheap internet access. Yeah, it'd be good if the universities could all offer that. Preparing lesson plans more interesting. Yeah, try to make them interactive even online. Use the different technologies for learning. Yeah, so there's lots of different technologies. In these classes, we just use Zoom and Pear Deck. But there's lots of other ones out there. Sending exercise books to students. Yeah, so you could send them some activities, some books for them to do in their free time, not free time, but like give them kind of more homework so they don't get behind. Use technology for learning, such as Zoom. Use special photos and songs. Yeah, keep them more interested. You can do online games. Yeah, so plan lessons that use technology, which is kind of what some people mentioned, like use technology to do activities. You can use online teaching, you can use Zoom, all that type of thing. Improve your digital literacy yourself, so you know how to use those, and then maybe also show your students how. Assign work over breaks. So if you have a break in classes because of COVID-19, maybe like someone said, send them a workbook, send them something for them to work on so that they don't get too far behind. So they can still spend some time working on some related projects. Okay, what time is it? We're actually kind of a bit behind. So I think we're just going to do the second activity. Because it will probably take 15 to 20 minutes and we only have 15 minutes. Okay, so I'll send the link. You do not have to do assignment 1. So only assignment 2. You can do assignment 1 for homework if you want. So assignment 1 you can do for homework. But assignment 2, so which constraints is the biggest challenge for you? So please tell me which one is your biggest constraint. And what can you do to work around this constraint? So how can you try and solve this constraint? And you will work on this individually. And I will give you 10 minutes. 10 minutes to work through this individually, and then I will give you 5 minutes in groups to discuss. Okay, so just activity 2. Okay, so you have 10 minutes. It's 8:46. So let's say until 8:50. Well, let's say 8:55. Sorry, it is. Let me have to convert the time. Until 9:25. You have until 9:25 to work individually to answer those questions. Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat box.
Udah di kang dah. Di kang ni deh. Kalau di sampai tahu dah dia. Sama yang. Oh, dah udah dah. Tidak bang, ai balik. Yang baru. Tahu ni je, dah saya lama.
Okay. So as Kathleen kind of pointed out to me, this is an example today of a time constraint. So we ran out of time. So I said to do activity 1 for homework, and activity 2 we'll discuss in class. So if you do start to run out of time, you can give something as homework or to do at home. So that is an example. So we're not going to talk about the physical constraints, so you can do that for homework, the chart. So most people said that their biggest constraints they faced were either the time in class or the number of students. So those seem to be the 2 most common ones. And I was thinking to give you time to discuss, but we are almost out of time, so we'll just discuss as a group. So when preparing a lesson plan, I have to take account every part in the planning to reach the goal of the lesson in time, what extra lessons I can provide to learn in groups or alone. Good. Yeah, if you're very exact with your lesson plan, it makes it easier to fit things in. So you don't get too far off topic. You know exactly what you need to cover, how much time you have, and you schedule it out a lot more. There are some solutions to overcome time constraints. We use groups or teams when teaching in class. Yeah, so groups or teams can help. Using groups to complete in-class assignments is an efficient way. In addition, this provides opportunities for collaboration among peers and teaches the value of teamwork and would be a strong, good relationship. Yeah, sometimes things are faster if they're done in groups. So if you put people in groups, then it's faster to complete. It is important to think of the lesson we are going to teach the students daily. So I'll make daily lesson plans effectively, divide the students in groups, and let them discuss about the topic, give them assignment as homework, and let them present in the class the next day. So yeah, give them maybe if they need to prepare, they can do that for homework and then just present the next day. I think to solve this constraint, more classrooms should be used and one classroom should have 20 students. I mean, I agree with that, ideally that would be good. It's not always possible. The school or the university might not have enough rooms. So it's not always something that you can fix. but there might be ways around it to try and have less students. Like during COVID-19, a lot of people are, or a lot of schools are dividing the classes in half or taking them outside. I gave my students to do assignments in groups and pairs, and I prepared the lesson plans according to the time limit in which I selected a short activity and set a strict guideline in groups. Yeah, good. I've made group presentations and calling random students to test speaking skills. Good. First, try to focus on the main topics and then let students do self-study, some extra lessons. Good. So yeah, give them self-study. And in the next period, teacher can review and assess them for a few minutes and make group discussions and peer activities. Excellent. Okay. So can anyone think of any other constraints that impact your ability to teach? So we talked about, what was that, 4 or 5? So are there any other ones? Any other constraints? Unmotivated students, yeah, that could be a lack of training. Yes, I think that's, from talking to the university instructors, some people felt or feel like they lack training in certain topics. And I know most university instructors do not get teacher training. It's not very common to get a lot of teacher training. So yeah, you might be lacking in training with the teachers or or staff or something like that. Anything else? Emotional and social factors, yeah. I mean, an example, like your own emotions or your students' emotions, or just, I'm not really sure. Like, yeah, obviously social factors, but it depends. Those can vary. Especially say during COVID-19, people are more depressed. So that could be almost like it's related to COVID-19, but people have depression, they're sad, they're stressed. Not enough teaching equipment. Yes, it might not only be funding that leads to a lack of equipment. There might be other reasons that there's a lack of equipment. Maybe it's just, it doesn't exist, or there isn't a lot of it in Myanmar. Lack of personal development. Yeah, so maybe you don't have enough opportunities for personal or professional development. I'm not entitled for planning teaching materials. Yeah, so maybe you have to use this textbook, or you have to plan in this way, but you don't really like it. Extra tasks that is not concerned with teaching. Yeah, I know that in Myanmar that you have to do a lot of admin. So in Canada at a university, they would have admin staff, but in Myanmar, they have very few extra admin staff. So the teachers have to do a lot of the admin and other tasks as well, which is kind of a time constraint in a different way. I also mentioned electricity. So electricity definitely is a limitation that isn't always related to funding, but again, like just limited technology, limited internet, all that type of thing. Need training for new books. Yeah, so maybe you get new textbooks, but you want trained on how to use them properly, and you're not getting that kind of support. Okay. Yeah. So how well can you work around physical constraints? So more like how well can you brainstorm solutions to possible constraints? But let's see, not at all, a little bit, somewhat, quite well, or extremely well. On the count of 3, you can also put it in the chat box. 1, 2, 3. Okay, awesome. And I'll just check the chat box now. Some people have their video off. Hey. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 thumbs up. I like that. Somewhat. 3. 3. Yeah. A little bit. Very. 3. Okay, awesome. I mean, it's hard to come up with like exact solutions to solve all the problems, but it is useful to brainstorm and at least think about them. Okay, so I will include the course feedback form in the chat box. I will also email out to you later today. Today for me, tomorrow for you probably, or late this evening for you. This is for the feedback. So you only have to fill it out once. You don't need to fill it out twice. But I will also email it to you. And then the email will include an invitation to join the Google Classroom. And I will put all the material from this class up there. I probably will put it up tomorrow, either like it would be tonight my time or tomorrow my time. I will add it all there. And next week, we're going to look at placement tests and pre-tests. So thank you very much. I will stay around for the next couple of minutes if you have any questions. So thank you and goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye. You too. Have a good weekend.
Goodbye, teacher.
Bye-bye. Bye. What do you mean additional English training? So we have, currently we will match people for one-to-one English classes with volunteer English teachers. So it does take a little bit, it usually takes a week or two for me to match the people, just because I have to, so if you're having problems, I don't know, I don't know. I can't keep track of who everyone is matched with or if they're matched up. So you can send me an email about it if you have issues or if you want matched up or if you want more English training or more another teacher or a teacher or something like that. If you've applied recently, then I probably just haven't matched you up yet. There's some people who I haven't gotten to yet. I also want to offer, oh, I mean with the volunteers, because there's the one-to-one classes. Oh, sorry. I'm not working. I'm not writing properly. So, and I also want to offer group English classes. And I was going to have someone offer them, but then they've kind of decided not to. So I might find someone else to do like group drop-in classes, kind of like this one, but for English. Next week, we might offer the teacher training, this class, also in Burmese. So, but I will send out an email. But yeah, just send me an email and ask. It's probably the easiest. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much and bye-bye.